All right, guys, our objective is I will solve problems by using the strategy draw a diagram to classify plane shapes. All right, so the strategy that we're going to use, a diagram, we're going to use something called a Venn diagram today for our diagram. Now remember some other words in math when we talk about diagram. Another word is picture or a chart. Those are all examples of diagrams. But again, today we're going to use something called a Venn diagram, which you definitely have heard before when you were learning reading skills, especially using Venn diagrams when you're comparing and contrasting, right? So we're going to use that in math today. And classify, this word classify, we're going to classify plane shapes, specifically quadrilaterals today. Classify, boys and girls, just means to arrange into groups or categories, okay? And we'll talk about that soon. All right, so let's get started. A Venn diagram. So we are using a Venn diagram today to help us with our strategy in order to classify these plane shapes that you've been learning. All right, so a Venn diagram shows how sets of things are related, okay? In the Venn diagram at the right, one circle right here, this circle right here, this circle has shapes that are all rectangles. And you know that, boys and girls, because it's labeled right here, rectangles. And notice how rectangles is above, it's the title above this large circle here. Okay, now this other circle, I should use a different color. This other circle, let's use blue. To the right, this circle represents all of the shapes that are rhombuses, okay? Again, rhombuses is the title above that large circle. So all those shapes in that circle represent rhombuses. Now, look in the middle section, okay? In the middle section. Now, these shapes in this section, where the circles overlap each other, right here, they are both rectangles and rhombuses. So I'm going to do like an arrow. These are both, okay? They're rectangles and rhombuses. Now, we are going to figure out what type of quadrilateral is in both of the circles. So right here, in this middle section, we're going to figure out what type of quadrilateral is in both circles. All right, so the first step, we just read the problem. What do we need to find? Well, it says we need to find the type of quadrilateral that's in both circles, okay? Quadrilateral in both circles. Now, what information do I need to use? We are definitely going to need to use the information, the circles that are labeled rectangles and rhombuses, okay? That's going to help us determine the quadrilaterals that are in the middle of this Venn diagram, okay? So we are going to look at the circles that are labeled rectangles and rhombuses. How will I use this information? Well, we're going to describe the shapes in the section where the circles overlap. Okay, let's really look at these shapes in the section that overlaps. And we're going to look at their sides and their angles so that we can determine the name of these shapes, these two shapes right here. All right, so what do we know is true? Think about, what do we know about all quadrilaterals, boys and girls? Yep, if you said they all have 4 sides and 4 angles. That's right. That's the most important thing. 4 sides and 4 angles. That is true for all quadrilaterals. Well, think. Which quadrilaterals always have 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel? They always have 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel. Well, I know rectangles, right? Rectangles always have 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel from each other. Oh, if you said squares. Yes, and can you think of another? Right, rhombuses. Oh, and if you even said parallelogram, you are correct too. Opposite side, they have 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel from each other. They never cross, they never meet. Very good. Now, think, which quadrilaterals always have 4 sides of equal length? There are 2. Which quadrilateral has all 4 sides that are equal? That is correct. A square and a rhombus. Good, if you said those 2. A square and rhombus are the only quadrilaterals that have all 4 sides of equal length. Which quadrilaterals always have 4 right angles? 4 right angles. Yep, a rectangle. A rectangle has 4 right angles, and so does a square. Okay, and these questions, boys and girls, they just help us think to determine what type of quadrilaterals are in the middle of the Venn diagram. Now, the quadrilaterals in the section where the circles overlap, well, let's look at them. Okay, let's see. All right, they always have, looks like they have 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel. I know it's really small. Let me zoom in. Okay, we're only looking in the middle, guys, right here. Okay, we're focused on what type of quadrilaterals are in the middle, or in both of the circles. Okay, so this side and this side, that's 1 pair of parallel sides, and this side, those 2 sides are parallel. And over here, this side and this side are parallel of each other, and so is this side and this side. Those 2 lines are parallel from each other. All right, so they always have 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel. Let me see. 4 sides of equal length. And ask yourself, how many right angles, boys and girls? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I know this is tiny. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm drawing those squares inside. So 4 right angles. All right, so if these quadrilaterals in this section, this middle section right here, have 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel, 4 sides of equal length, and 4 right angles, then the quadrilateral in these circles are squares. So we just answered our question. What type of quadrilateral is in both circles? Squares. All right, let's look at this little question. This is good. Look at this figure right here. Does a blank fit in the Venn diagram? Yes or no? What do y'all think? Would that fit in our Venn diagram of rectangles and rhombuses? Let's go back and let's see what kind of quadrilateral this is. It is a quadrilateral because there are 4 sides and 4 vertices. No, This would not fit in that Venn diagram because this is a trapezoid. And a trapezoid only has one pair of opposite sides that are parallel of each other, and the other sides have different lengths. So no, this trapezoid would not fit in this Venn diagram. Okay? All right, let's look at another example. So the Venn diagram shows the shapes Andrea used to make a picture. Where would the shape shown below be placed in the Venn diagram? So look here, guys. Look at this shape. We have to figure out where would it go in this Venn diagram. So what do I need to find? What do I need to find? Well, we need to figure out where this shape right here, where would it go in this Venn diagram, right? Where would we place it? Where would we draw it in this Venn diagram? Well, what information do we need? What information do I need to use? Well, we need to definitely look at this Venn diagram. We need to look at the circles labeled quadrilaterals, and we need to look at the circles labeled polygons with right angles, okay? So these are all in this circle, all of the shapes that are quadrilaterals, and in this circle, all of the polygons that only have right angles. And again, boys and girls, in this middle section represents both. These figures are quadrilaterals and polygons with right angles, okay? Again, we are trying to figure out where this figure is going to go. Well, how will I use this information? I have to think about what I know about two-dimensional shapes to find where the shape should be placed. Okay? So, again, some of the things you can ask yourself before you try to figure out where this figure goes. Alright, so if this circle is labeled quadrilaterals, what do we know about quadrilaterals, guys? They all have 4 sides and 4 angles, right? Well, let's look at this picture, this polygon. Does this polygon have 4 sides and 4 angles? 100%, yes, okay? Let's also ask ourselves what is true about all polygons. They are closed shapes made of line segments. Yes, this is a polygon. We've already established that. Well, how can we describe the shapes in the section where the circles are overlapped? Here. I see they're all quadrilaterals. They also have polygons with right angles. Okay? Does this figure have right angles? Absolutely. Here and here. Okay, so we know it's a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides and 4 angles. And we also know this quadrilateral is a polygon with right angles. So boys and girls, where would we draw this? Where would we put this? If you said in the middle here, you are absolutely correct. Because look, we can't just put it here under quadrilaterals. These shapes only have 4 sides. If you can notice, none of these 3 shapes here, none of them form right angles. Okay? Only these shapes, here and here. So this figure would be drawn in the middle because it represents both. It's a quadrilateral and it's a polygon with right angles. Okay? So how many shapes, boys and girls, let's look at that Venn diagram. How many shapes do not have right angles? Well, let's count. 1, 2, 3. These shapes right here do not have quadrilaterals. Well, how many red shapes, look at the red shapes only. How many of the red shapes have right angles but are not quadrilaterals? Let's see. Oh, look at this one. It says not a quadrilateral. This has how many sides? 1, 2, 3. So that's not a quadrilateral. So out of all 4 of the red shapes, this one's a quadrilateral. It has 4 sides. This one's a quadrilateral. This one's also a quadrilateral because of 4 sides. Okay? And let's see. In Seesaw today, okay, in Seesaw, you are going to finish number 1. All right? It says Jordan is sorting the shapes at the right in a Venn diagram. Where does this go? This polygon. Where would it go? Well, first let's look at the sides and angles of the polygon. Okay? The shape, if you look closely at that shape, how many sides of equal length? 4. And how many right angles do you see in this shape? None. So I'm going to put 0. Okay? So if our Venn diagram right here, this circle represents polygons with right angles, and this circle right here represents polygons with all sides of equal length, and this right here in the middle, this would represent polygons that represent both polygons with right angles and polygons with all sides of equal length. Since this figure does not form right angles, we cannot put it here, right? And we can't put it in the both section. We would have to put it under here in this circle, polygons with all sides of equal length. So I would do my best drawing and put that here. In Seesaw, you are going to finish putting all of these polygons where they need to be in this diagram. So today, boys and girls, really, when you're solving these problems, look carefully. Think back of what you know about all of the quadrilaterals and polygons that we have been learning. So that way you will be able to place them in the correct spot in the Venn diagrams.